I want to set this in front of my videos so in the future you will always know like what type of video this is, because my other videos are more like mindset videos. It's more like I talk about my own like experiences, but these kind of videos where I have this kind of graphics on my side I use for like usable principles you can directly get ahead with the most of the people, because nobody is like actually getting like putting this kind of effort into their like alignment. So we talk about alignment, we talk about like sustainable work, we talk about deep work. So what do I mean with deep work? So what, like, I'm always talking about deep work and I never talk about like what I'm actually doing. What kind of deep work is it that I'm always talking about? So you might be confused. So actually, it's pretty easy. Okay, I got it. So reading, writing, scripting, and coding. These are the four major habits that I do on a regular basis. I don't do all of them at one day, but I split them apart on the week, almost like the push pull leg, like a 3 day interval. I'm doing the same with my habits too, because it's almost the same. It's pretty easy that way. So I talk about how to read books effectively. A lot of YouTubers did videos about it, but I've never listened to them. But now I got my own structure, and I think it's pretty accessible. It's pretty it gives you a pretty good overview on like how to read more sustainable. The average Jeffrey, right? He's like reading a book, the I don't know, the most famous book, The Superior Man. All right, so he reads about 10 pages a day. He doesn't take action the same day, because I don't know, like he thinks like maybe I can't do action, I can't take action today because it's that late and I don't actually visit any more friends. I don't to school. I don't go to school. I don't go to work. No, I go nowhere. So why should I bothering like with his advices from the advices from the book? I cannot use the principles in real life. So like he thinks maybe I should do it tomorrow or something. So he goes on his day. He reads some pages, more like 15 pages a day, at maximum, I would say. And the next day he wakes up and he also reads 10 pages maybe. If he feels right, he reads like 15 pages. And that day he feels like really awkward. He feels like not really at his fullest level. So he thinks, maybe I should do it the next day. And so Jeffrey goes on. He like pushes it on the next day, pushes it on the next, pushes it, and like slowly he already forgot what the first few pages were saying. He cannot remember what the advices and principles were from the beginning. So he goes on reading, and at some point he thinks like, it's really pointless anymore to get like to actually have this kind of urge to using it, the principles and taking these advices and take advantage of them in real life. So he goes on and he never takes really action. So this is the average reader is like approaching reading that way. And I made up a new principle which I call like how to read books effectively, which should focus on and more sustainable reading. So so a more sustainable way of investing your time in books. So you choose, right. You choose actively to invest your time in reading this kind of book, and you already know like this is a long book about like 100 or 200 pages. So you know that you need a lot of time to read this book. So why not use this time more effectively and as effectively as even possible. And therefore you should think about at which stage, like there you should you should distinguish your different states you are in when you're reading a book. So there's a stage while you're reading it, there's a stage afterwards, so after you finished your chapter, your 10 pages a day, and there's a time like way after, like I don't know, like half a year after you finish the book, where you should take some effort to memorize the key phrases or the key advices or the key principles, and like re-engage them and repeat them as a kind of spaced repetition system. So we begin at the first chapter, right? The first chapter is the time while you are actually reading the book, and at that time you should highly focus on writing out the key principles. So this is makes sense, right? But for most people, this already is like takes too much effort, because sometimes they read in the, I don't know, in the bed, they read on the couch, reading in the school, and wherever you read the book is very important, because you cannot like take notes everywhere. You need to be at a specific like work environment where you can actually engage in this information and have to write down. So you have to be aware of like where you're reading your books you want to focus on. And I highly suggest you to only read that way, not reading the shallow way, not reading like on the bed like in the evening. No, 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 this is, we don't want to do this shit anymore. We want to improve, we want to like make our life more sustainable, and therefore we need to really read books also in the most effective way possible. And this is only at our workspace, this is only at our desk, where we can engage in this information, we can write them down. And afterwards, so this is the next step, so you also leveling your notes, because your notes are pretty like on a basic level. These are just like low effort, and most Jeffrey think like if they take notes, this is everything they need. They don't need to do more, and this is a complete illusion. So you have to also compress these informations, because in a book, of course, it's about 100 200 pages long. Some paragraphs are not that important, and if we take all 8 billion million books together, so we cannot, we have limited time in our lives, so we have to get through these key principles quickly. And for other people, for example, I don't know, for your subscribers, for your friends, for the people you're doing, I don't know, essays about or speaking in front of a camera, you need to compress information, because most of the people have an attention span of, I don't know, like 5 10 seconds, 15 seconds. So they need the key to the next door within seconds. And you can only do this when you engage in some information, especially we talk about our notes now. So yeah, I don't know, you are on page 50, you have about 10 notes about the key sentence or the key phrase or the key principle you came across in these 15 pages, and you now compress all of your notes down to like one paragraph you can really use in the real world, that you can think of when you're going to approach life in your normal day-to-day life. But also, you can put these paragraphs that you have compressed, and this is even the next stage. So this is stage number 3, the highest stage, the highest level. You take these compressed information paragraphs that are really the core essence of this book, for you. It's all subjective. You can, it's subjective, right? You take this and you're making a kind of blog or an essay out of it. You can call it whatever you want. You can just call it a simple writing, where you have a simple combination of all of your compressed paragraphs. Next stage, after reading. So what should you do after reading? So there's a lot of things you could do. You could use the principles that you have learned in real life. So you could approach, like, I don't know, if you're reading a book about girls or women or relationships, you can go cold approaching, for example. If you read a book about neuroscience, I did read a lot about neuroscience, you could try to adjust your, I don't know, your work environment, or you think fast, think slow. All of these kind of books about effectiveness, minimalism, all of these kind of books that want to like increase your workload, and want to increase your like outcome and adjust and configure your life a little bit more. Then you can synthesize, of course. Like, synthesizing is the most interesting part, because now you're truly engaging in this information. You're speaking out this information yourself, and when you're speaking about information, this is the truly the best way of memorizing them. So if you speak about information, those information get a highly strong, a pretty strong emotional effect. And with this emotional effect you're getting when speaking about information, these emotions are really important, because these emotions are binding information to specific brain areas. These emotions are really, really important. And if you just take notes, you don't have any emotions at all. And you just think, okay, this could be interesting, right? Do you have it's just an assumption? And this feeling of an assumption is not really strong. But if you talk about it, you get this emphasis. And you emphasize so much that you have this kind of feeling that you. So we did this in school with presentations, and every student hated presentations. But we were students, we were kids, we didn't know anything about life, so we wanted to avoid memorizing information at all costs. So like I was that kind of kid, like maybe you're too. So how about memorizing them really, really for long term? So long term, I think I talk about long term memory now. First of all, what should you do? Revision. How should you do it? Spaced repetition. That's really, I think that's the most easiest part. So there's a software called Anki. It's most popular spaced repetition software. So there's no other like popular software out there that you can use for spaced repetition, but you writing maybe your notes or also your key like your key compressions, the key phrase compressions or whatever you want to call them, and put them into a index card. So you're creating index cards, and you can revise them maybe half a year afterwards when you are just curious about what you have learned or what the book was really about, and you don't have the courage enough to like read the whole book through. Then is the time to lean on the things you did while reading. So now you have three different stages. You have the while reading, the after reading, and you have the memorizing. And all three stages combine the revision factor within. So in all three stages, you revisit you revisit the information that you have read, and you re-engage in, and you're also motivating yourself to actually using these principles. I think actually using these principles in real life are of course the most important part. If you think about a relationship book that's highly focused on how to approach women or how to act within a relationship, there's nothing you can learn much with only thinking about it. So you have to take action, you have to really do it. But if you re-engage more and more in this information, if you speak about them, if you compress them, if you repeat them, then you get more and more like motivation to actually do it. So in the first place, think of an advice as completely bullshit. Like maybe with the most of the advices that I gave to you, but the more you engage in these advices and the more you take, like the more effort you put into them and really realizing them, the more you understand, the more you accept, or the more you realize like the true core of these advices. So thank you very much for your patience and attention. Always push for pain. Peace, bro.
諦めんなよ。諦めんなお前。どうしてそこでやめるんだ。そこでもう少し頑張ってみろよ。ダメ諦めたら周りのこと思えよ。応援してる人たちのこと思ってみろって。あともうちょっとのところなんだから。俺だってこのマイナス10度のところしじみが取れるって頑張ってんだよ。絶対やってみろ。必ず目標達成できる。だからこそ